Well, the moment you've all been waiting for is here. The coveted O.J. Simpson endorsement has come in. The former NFL star turned accused murderer is throwing his support behind none other than Vivek Ramaswamy. Let's hear what he had to say.
This morning I got up and I found myself watching Meet the Press. They had the Vivek Ramaswamy on. Now, just like the debates, the Republican debates, I said, hey, this guy is on to something. I do have his book. I've only got like 30% into the book, but I love what he was saying in his book. I was saying it's fresh, it's new. I got a little problem with his foreign affairs take, that I saw in doing the debate, but he's young. I honestly think if this guy untie that knot, that for whatever reason he has that associates him with some of these other Republicans, if he just untie it, stick with the things that he was saying in his book, and if he got himself an experienced person to run with him, an experienced person, I would say, like Nikki Haley, somebody that knows foreign affairs, this guy would have a chance.
Maybe a team of rivals. Vivek, Nikki Haley ticket. They don't seem to like each other very much, but it would win OJ's support. Very interesting. OJ says later that he's not a Republican, not a Democrat. He's actually closest to being a libertarian, like yours truly, but maybe with a not quite libertarian foreign policy is what it sounds like.
That's great. All he needs is a few million more O.J. Simpsons, and he could ride the wave to the White House.
I can hear a note of sarcasm in your voice, Briahna.
I don't know what to say. You just want the best person. Is that what he said, something along those lines? The best person for what? The best person who's going to cut the taxes of a multimillionaire like O.J. Simpson? Well, then you probably should vote for someone like Vivek Ramaswamy or someone in the Republican Party, generally speaking. That's a safe bet. If you are a millionaire and you want to exclusively vote in your best interest, you should 100% keep voting for corporate members of both parties, but specifically the Republican Party tends to do more in terms of tax cuts for the rich, because they don't have an interest in maintaining social programs. So you're going to get things like Trump's $1.7 trillion tax cut that enormously added to the deficit, and 83% of every 83 cents of every dollar went to the 1%. Fantastic. You're going to want to get corporate Democrats going too, who'll do things like the COVID relief bill that was the largest upward transfer of wealth in American history. You saw the PPP loans go out to Kanye West and Jared Kushner and all of these millionaires. And then you saw the student debt policy get scuttled for working people and kids that were too poor to be able to pay for college out of pocket. So I agree, that's great. But if you talk in these vague terms and you have no actual politics, then you're gonna make these kinds of choices. Or is it good for you? Is it good for rich people? Is it good for poor people? Is it good for working people? Is it good for the environment? Is it good for foreign policy? You obviously don't have any politics, any sense of political understanding or analysis. And I don't mean that in a patronizing way, but I don't like Vivek's foreign policy takes. Do you understand Vivek's foreign policy take? Do you understand the idea of wanting to be an anti-war candidate? Why would you imagine someone like Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley could ever run together on the same ticket when the reason that Vivek is popular at this moment is exactly that foreign policy take? It's the best thing about him, where from my subjective view as a progressive, whereas Nikki Haley has the exact opposite total investment in the blob sort of a view. It is frustrating to me. It's frustrating to me when there are views like this that are bandied about. And this is kind of like a joke and whatever. Nobody really cares what O.J. Simpson thinks.
Although I've heard a lot of people, not just O.J. Simpson, I've heard a lot of people have that reaction from the debate that they liked Vivek best and they liked Nikki Haley best. And I too have said, but they have totally contradictory views, but it's about something beyond that.
I think that our public education system, the media, should be explaining the real world consequences of what people believe and what they're advocating for from a policy perspective in a way that wouldn't make it so easy to confuse why you would like two different people. Do people ever ask folks to rank their priorities? It's okay to have different priorities. It's okay to say, I personally value foreign policy less, and therefore I like Nikki Haley because of other things she has to offer. To say I care about the environment, but I like foreign policy more, and therefore I like Vivek Ramaswamy. Those are perfectly legitimate arguments to make. But what frustrates me when I hear things like what O.J. Simpson has said, or more, here's a better example, some recent statements from Oliver Anthony, the singer of Richmond, north of Richmond. He recently tweeted, "People crying about burning coal, but not the poor souls digging it. I reckon there's been a good many men in the grave trying to keep our houses lit," and like talking about how the plight of coal workers is so terrible. But many leftists pointed out the exact same people who are upset about the environment are the ones that are trying to get you universal health care, be able to not have you subject yourself to black lung and early death because you're doing the kind of job that is no longer beneficial without government subsidies.
I don't know what the... it's not a hypocrisy dig on him. He said he was upset that they used his song and said that he was talking about the people on stage. So he's not really trying to associate himself with the right-wing cause.
I don't think he's a conservative, but I'm not trying to ding him as a conservative. But this tweet is incoherent because what it does, I'm not upset with him.
Which tweet is it?
The tweet I just read about why are the same people who are mad at the environment, people's crying about burning coal, but not the poor souls digging it. It's literally the same people. It's literally, there was a movement not too long ago in a presidential campaign by a guy named Bernie Sanders where the idea of a green transition was about having good paying jobs for people who don't want to go down to those hell pits anymore just because it's the only job in their state that can support families, and that actually wanted to give them health care that they so desperately need, and dental care that people so desperately need, and address the opioid crisis, which people so desperately need. And so what is going on? I'm not mad at Oliver Anthony here, but what is the political education going on where people aren't aware that there is a way that you can marry all of these interests, where you feel like working class people aren't being taken care of and that they're being looked down their nose at by elites? All that's true. So who's actually offering a prescription for that? There are folks willing to do it and who have an anti-war message and who have been consistently anti-war since before it was popular to do so to get votes in the 2024 primary. Maybe that is an answer, although they're not going to do very much for this guy's health care and coal issues, although you would stop some of the subsidies for dirty energy, which would be a good idea.
Let them compete in the open free market, have less government management of this whole system.
Yeah. So it's not about Oliver Anthony. It's not about O.J. Simpson in particular.
Vivek's book got mentioned by OJ.
Yeah.
So this book, I assume he's referring to this book, Woke Inc., which is about, is trying to do that dance of Republicans being very mad actually at corporations these days for their perception that they're, the Dylan Mulvaney stuff, right? That they're virtue signaling to progressive values, and this is very annoying to conservatives, but conservatives also, those who are not genuine populists but are still, in the free market school, don't actually want more regulation against corporations in general, although they're very upset with the things that they're doing. So how do we find some way to be mad about corporations or have some policy recommendation that doesn't violate our core principles? And I haven't read the entire book. I think Vivek puts a lot of it on ESG, which is a kind of it has a regulatory component, it's being embraced by corporations, but it's not totally voluntary, and pushing back on that as the solution to get wokeness out of the corporate space. As best I know, it sounds like OJ was enjoying that.
How long has ESG been around? Because I don't think I've heard those letters until this year.
It's been around a long time, but it hasn't become a big thing until the last 3 years.
How long has corruption been around?
Since the dawn of human history.
So if you fall for the idea that some letters that you never heard of a year ago are the cause of all of the corruption and despair, both in Wall Street and in Capitol Hill,
I don't think that's what's being.
It's so ridiculous.
But the corruption is not what's being. It's the.
Look, I don't care about ESG. I don't know what it is. I don't really care. Get rid of it tomorrow. Guess what? We still have a corrupt political system.
I thought you would appreciate this.
It's so ridiculous.
A friend of mine texted me this. This is a screenshot of an article that the CEO of Southwest Airlines, got a 76% pay increase this year, and Southwest in a regulatory filing said that yes, all the cancellations negatively affected executives' bonuses, but added, This is a quote. With respect to ESG initiatives, including DEI and sustainability, the board determined that the company performed above target level expectations.
Look, get rid. We've talked here in Route Against DEI.
We talked over and over again about all sorts of stuff.
I don't. Yes, that wasn't a qualitative statement. That was
Okay.
just a descriptive statement. The point being that there's always something wrong in the world. But I think people should be very suspicious of folks that manage to come up with new boogeymen every single week when the old boogeyman has been sitting there ruining your lives since forever. If you get rid of ESG, what is your life going to look like? That Southwest guy might have to come up with a new justification for why he gets a bonus. But he always gets a bonus. He always gets a bonus because there's not actually policies that are addressing the gaps.
But I'm not going to give any more subsidies or bailouts to the airline industry or any other industry. Would be my solution there.
Yeah.
Also, I would reduce the mandatory how many freaking hours that pilots have to train to be in line with Europe, and we can have more pilots and we can have more flights.
I think that people who work for the airline industry should use their labor power to make sure that they are not working shifts that are so long that it endangers the public, that the profits
we're not going to have more flights if we do that.
That the profits are put back into the business, because that was one of the key drivers of the big grounding of airplanes last holiday season, where 1 million, 2 million people were grounded in an unprecedented moment that has largely been wiped away from the news landscape as though it never happened. They had old equipment, scheduling computer equipment, because they were doing all of these payouts to CEOs and dividends to shareholders instead of investing back in the business to actually make your commutes better. They're putting the seats closer together and giving you smaller and smaller bags of snacks and cutting corners for the consumer experience, because as a direct consequence of economic choices to pursue endless growth and profit and dispersing to shareholders and CEOs, as opposed to actually making businesses better for consumers.
They need more competition. They need more pressure to make the business better for consumers.
Well, you're not going to get that either, because they've bought off
Because it's impossible to be a
government
pilot.
and there's no antitrust.
Well, all right, we'll have more Rising right after this. Tell us what you think about the OJ endorsement and the topics we've discussed in the comments.